and then turn it over to Alex Jovanovich with Parks and Recreation.
Thanks, Shauna. As Shauna said, I'm Alex Jovanovich. I'm the Community Services Deputy Director. Work specifically with the Parks team. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this afternoon for the fourth and final workshop for the Hayden Butte and Papago Preserve Management Plan. Before I turn it over to the Logan Simpson team to jump right in, since we only have an hour designated for this meeting, so to leave as much time for comments and questions from you all, I did want to note that the survey will be open, and the survey is open. Apologize, and it'll be open through March 12th. And you can find that at the Tempe website. It's www.tempe.gov/forum. And with that, I will turn it over to the Logan Simpson team.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Wayne Colbank. I'm a landscape architect with Logan Simpson, and welcome to workshop number 4. Just to share some of the key players involved here, including myself, John Southard, who's in the room here with me, as well as Trace Baker, and of course, Alex and Shauna. As I said, this is the 4th workshop. It's going to be a relatively brief presentation for a couple different reasons. One, we do have a draft report that has lots of the details and finer grained information that you might want to see and read about. But also because many of the recommendations that are in the report and in this presentation are very, very much the same as they were in the previous workshop. So what we're going to do today, as you see on this slide, is talk just briefly about some of the background and some of the history of the study, but primarily focusing on the recommendations. As a reminder, we've had 3 prior workshops, including the first one in November of 23. This is the last of the intended workshops for the management plan itself. Obviously, the preserves were established through individual resolutions by council, and we want everyone to remember that we are in these preserve locations and with the intent to try to meet these preserve criteria. We also want to share the land acknowledgement that the city has committed to and their commitment to the land and to the Native American community. Now, just as a little bit of a summary relative to what we've done in the past through the studies is we've looked at and assessed the natural resources, which is the flora and fauna, recreation amenities, structures and facilities that are out there, cultural resources, and traditional cultural places. And with this resource background for the sites, we were able to develop these management or conservation areas, sub-areas, which have implications for the types of management and maintenance activities that can go on. So they will affect the approach going forward for managing these preserves. Now, that's not the only information that we base things on. Of course, we have recommendations and input that we got from many others, including folks who have attended the workshops and the survey and completed the surveys, as well as the different city departments and other boards and commissions. And I will say that as part of our recommendation development, the city fully intends to, and has been stated in the report, to continue to receive input and have dialogue on these recommendations as this management plan goes forward. But getting into the recommendations themselves, we developed a management plan goal, which you can read here, which is to have the preserves be self-sustaining while honoring their resources, their cultural heritage, and their intrinsic value, with the idea that conservation is being a proactive approach to taking on those kinds of activities. We did also identify 14 different management objectives, plan objectives, which we believe are those steps that if undertaken would lead to the preserves being in the natural state as the resolutions identify. Here's the second group of them. Some of them are highlighted just so you can see them. We're not going to get down and talk in any great detail of any one of these because for the most part, these have been seen before and they are in the management plan report. We did have some, as it relates to the recommendations themselves, we did have very specific recommendations for management and or maintenance. Some of them have been boiled down here as to what you see on this slide. In addition, we had recommendations for improving the preserves either individually or together. And you can see on this slide, these recommendations are the recommendations for both preserves, but you can also see the individual preserve recommendations here, including this one for Papago. Now, what we did beyond that was that we said, well, if we have these management objectives, how would we prioritize them? What would we be trying to do with them? And what would be then the ability, or what would provide us the ability to determine whether or not we had met success or were successful in achieving them? So each of the management plan objectives are in a table, as you see here in the report, and they have identified the prioritization, whether it's high, medium, or low, the kind of information or the objective that you're really trying to have, or the metric in this case of what you're trying to do, a status report of what's happened, and over on the right column being the success criteria that if met, and generally these are things that can be measured, not so much qualitative, but certainly quantitative type information. Just as it relates to this slide here, item number one, or objective number one, is actually bifurcated. And just briefly, the reason for that is that some of the studies for the Hayden Butte Preserve are older than 5 years. And so the suggestion here is that there is additional study that needs to be done, and that would be under 1A at the top there. But that's the reason why that's bifurcated, is because there's not quite parallel information for both of them. And so this is suggesting Hayden Butte has some further study. But you can see that each of the objectives has a prioritization and a success criteria. There is a mistake here, and I do have to apologize for objective number 7. The recreation trails and trails plan, it has a prioritization of low. It really should be high. Not sure how it got in here this way, but and I believe it might even be in the report that way, but apologies for that. But the idea here is that the reason why it is high is because the trails plan is important for determining whether some of the trails that are out there that are particularly on Papago Preserve, whether or not those can be closed, or whether they're having an impact on cultural resources of some type or vegetation. That study is highly recommended. So here's the next batch of the 14 objectives, and you can see here that each one of them has been given a different level of criteria, timeframes, and or performance requirements that are intended to be the measuring stick for their success. And here's the latter group of them here. So with that, in addition to that work, we also were looking for partnerships, and those have yet really to be identified and probably won't be really pursued until the management plan is finally approved and is starting in implementation. The potential grants that we've looked at, we have identified some of them, but some of them are also have a federal funding source. So at this point, those will have to be further evaluated as we move forward into implementation, given the fact that in Washington, we're seeing lots of interest for reducing federal monies in different applications. So those will have to be further studied as we move forward. In terms of where this study goes from here, the final report will be cleaned up in March, and then there is an April 24th council work study session. So that's the next steps that we plan to have for the management plan. And at this point, we will make ourselves available and city staff available to answer any questions. So I'll turn it back to Shauna or Alex.
Hi, my name is Brenda. I'm filling in for Shauna today. So we'll go ahead and open up the Q&A. Donna asked if there is a link to the previous plan draft so we can compare to see the changes. I will work on tracking that down. Alex, I'm not sure if you know about that, as I'm just filling in.
Yeah, we can certainly provide that. We can put a link on the website. It was posted during the last public outreach process. So we can just put that link back up and then note that it's the previous version of it.
Excellent, thank you. And if you want to, I see some of you know how to the raise hand function, just hit the reactions and there's a raise hand there. So Matt Bloom, if you want to go ahead and unmute, ask your question.
Hey, can you guys hear me well?
Yes.
Hey, thanks for the time today. My two biggest concerns were I was looking at, and I didn't have time to read it, kind of went by quick. I was just kind of curious. I heard about the removal of the possible removal of the A on A mountain. I was just kind of wanting some like more info on what kind of reasons there would be to get rid of it. And it just seems kind of strange that's something we would want to remove from our city with that history that it has.
Hey, Matt, Wayne, I'll take that one. Matt, appreciate the question. We are actually not considering removing the A. In previous versions, to kind of address Donna's question in the chat, previous versions had some different language in there. We have since changed that, and after some conversations within the city and city staff, decided to change that language, and we're not considering the removal of. We're really going to focus on improvements to the A, so erosion control, making sure that it's a safe place to visit. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, awesome. I appreciate that. That's great. I would hate to see that being removed. And then the last thing, secondly, I know the jumps near I believe it's the preserve in Papago are a touchy subject. And I was just kind of hoping to hear some, I guess, more info on what the recommendations or considerations are for them. And hopefully just kind of be here to send the message that it's a very positive impact for kids, families, and everybody. There's a lot of people that come out from across Arizona and even across the Southwest to come and explore that great area of Papago. And I was just kind of wanting to know if there's any updates on that. Because I would hate to lose something that the community loves so much and built and sustains by hand and actually really takes care of. It's one of the cleaner areas that I've seen out at Papago. And thanks for your time today. Like I said, again, that's my last question.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for joining us, and thanks again for the question. Like you said, the jumps area, as well as there's some other areas and recommendations within the preserve management plan that are a little bit more difficult to work through. Trying to balance conservation with recreational use, recreational, cultural, and educational uses of the preserves, both Hayden Butte and Papago. So we recognize that area is utilized, and it is, for those that utilize it, it is a cherished area. They love to utilize it. People that are on their mountain bikes or just any bikes have taken advantage of that area over the years, and it's kind of expanded as community's gone out there and moved around some dirt and those types of things. So as the recommendation says in the plan, it's recommending that the city consider removing, and then if removed, and returning that area to kind of the natural original vegetation or natural state open space, for the city to look at another alternative location to have something similar. While that's in the recommendation now, I mentioned at the last public outreach meeting, at the in-person meeting, that when this plan is final, there are a lot of recommendations in the plan, and this being one of them, that it wouldn't be day one of implementation that it would be implemented. There would be a lot of steps that happen before implementation for some of these elements, the bike jumps being one of them, where we'd want to conduct some further outreach that's very specific to stakeholders that are utilizing the area. So we'd want to have some more conversation about it. We want to dialogue on, what are the best uses of that space? If the jumps were to remain, what's the proper way for them to remain? Is there a public-private partnership to maintain them? Does the city have the staffing capability and capacity to maintain them in a safe manner to provide that recreational opportunity? So we want to go through all those various options and talk through all those components before making any definitive decision on that. That's one of the reasons why the recommendation is just to consider removal instead of just a hardline removal.
Excellent. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Next we have Yosra, and then after that, Stu. I hope I said that right.
All good. I wanted to thank you guys for setting this up. I'm here on behalf of the Crescent Moon Project. We just put our crescent up. I hope you guys got a chance to see that. But I wanted to discuss if you guys had the opportunity to look at the possible impacts of potentially removing holiday displays on the cultural and diversity of Tempe and how it's already being used for that.
Yes, thank you for the question. It's in our thoughts. I won't say on a daily basis, but we've had lots of conversation about it and the impacts of any removal would have on the community. We have to take several things into consideration when making any changes or implementing recommendations of the preserve management plan, and that also being one of them. As we've talked or discussed through that and reading through all the comments that are provided to us by community members, other stakeholders, either through surveys or in attendance, public virtual meetings, in-person meetings. One of the things we've had to consider is our ability as a city to allow additional displays on Hayden Butte. And at this point, we are limited in the number of displays that we're able to approve and have go up there. So as of right now, it's been very difficult for us to allow everyone and anyone to treat all groups consistently and fairly if anyone comes forward. So part of the reason why the recommendation is in there to remove them is because our, I guess, for lack of a better description, our inability to approve all requests to go there. So we are looking at other locations that might allow us that opportunity. We're going to evaluate other locations across the city to see if there's a better location or a location that would also provide the city the ability to fairly and consistently allow all groups that request displays to be put up.
Thank you for your response. I just to follow up on that, I think one thing we can definitely discuss is because we do want it to be equal in other organizations who do want to do this. But from my understanding, the Jewish and the Christian community already have a base up there that allows them to easily, without damaging any or like the preserve or anything like that, are able to put up their display. I think we can potentially look into the possibility of sharing that base, or the way that we do it is not any sort of putting anything that affects the mountain itself or any of the things around it. I think we can discuss maybe having a lottery system, anything like that, to allow people to apply and for it to be still shared without it just being a clear cutoff and not allowing anyone just because of that fairness part of it.
Thank you for your comment.
Okay, next we have Stu, and then after that, Olenka.
Hi there, I'm Stu Seafer. And before I make my comments, I'd just like to say that I agree with Yasra. We welcome the Muslim displays on the Butte, and I represent the Jewish group that's up there, and we've put our menorah up for, this will be 30th year. So we welcome the opportunity to work with them and help them facilitate their display. Let me just give you a little bit of background. I I graduated from ASU and I live at 65 East University uh, in downtown Tempe. I opened my architectural office in 1973 and have been involved in numerous projects in the downtown. I've been active in historic preservation. I've been on the Tempe Historic Preservation Commission and Historic Preservation Foundation. I was a founding member of the DTC, which is now the DTA, the Business Association, and so on. I raised my family here, and I've now retired here. I'm also one of a few people that proposed the idea of placing a menorah, which is the symbol for Hanukkah, Jewish symbol for Hanukkah, and 30 years ago. It was located originally on the flour mill, and a developer got involved, and we were no longer able to do that. So we approached then Mayor Neil Giuliano with the idea of putting the menorah on the butte. We received his support and council support to do that. They assigned an official to walk through the butte and find the best location. We didn't want to dig any holes into the butte. They didn't want us to do that in respect to the environment of the butte. I think this was just prior to the actual preserve being approved. So we found a stub of an old power pole, and we were asked to locate the menorah on that, and we designed it specifically to do so. We were very careful to do no damage to the butte. We stay on the trails when we go up. We haul out whatever we take up, and we make sure not to leave any trash. In other words, this project has little, if any, negative impact on the butte environment. Every year we've applied for and received a permit from the city to do this project. The process of carrying up the 200-pound, 20-foot-high menorah and assembling it and raising it is a challenging and difficult task for the 12 to 20 boys and men and some women who take it on every year, but it's also very rewarding and a spiritually fulfilling experience for all of us. I think I can speak for most of them who, by the way, are for the most part members of the men's club at Temple Emmanuel here in Tempe. I could speak for them to say that they are all hopeful that they will be allowed to continue this tradition for many years in the future. So in our opinion, the Preserves Management Plan is very well thought out. It's absolutely necessary to preserve and protect one of the city's most iconic resources. I fully support it and also fully respect and honor the tribe's concerns about its spiritual meaning to them. The only suggestion I would make would be to delete, as Yazra also suggested, to delete the report's recommendation to discontinue the holiday displays. I believe that with certain regulations in place, these displays could continue in a way that would have little, if no negative impact on the flora, fauna, and archaeology of the butte, and at the same time would be respectful to the concerns of the tribes. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comment.
Okay, next we have Mishko, and then after that, Wid.
Hi, I just wanted to jump in before Mieszko goes. My name's Alenka. I'm actually a planner by trade as well. So I appreciate all the effort that went into developing this plan. I know it takes a lot of work to do that. I just wanted to sort of elaborate on my comment and support Matt's comment about the bike jump area. I saw a couple times in the report that there's support for keeping them, but then the recommendation is to remove them. And I know, Alex, you said that this is just a consideration, but when it's, stated as a recommendation in the plan, it feels like that's sort of more the direction that's going to be taken. I and my family grew up in this area and have ridden those jumps plenty of times. My youngest brother actually was a huge part of maintaining those jumps, and he was part of that community. Unfortunately, he recently passed away, so is no longer part of that community physically, but spiritually he always will be. And so personally, it really hits home to see that there's the potential for these to be removed. I think I've never heard of it being unsafe for anyone. Anyone that's been there has had a really positive experience. The community that's developed over the years has been so strong and welcoming. And so I would like to suggest, changing that recommendation. I know this is sort of far down the line in the development of the plan, but I just want to put a plug in to reconsider that recommendation, as this is a really important aspect of the cycling community. But yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry for your loss and really appreciate your comments.
Thanks.
Thank you. Sorry to skip over you there, Alenka. Next on to Mishko, and then after that, Wade. I'm
Pardon
not
me,
sure if
can you
I'm.
guys hear me?
Yes, absolutely. Go ahead.
Thank you for your time. Similar situation, the same situation. I love that spot, and I'm excited to hear, Alex, that there might be an opportunity for private partnership with the Jumps production as the plan develops. So I'm excited to say that I might be able to fill that opportunity. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, Wade.
Hello, everyone. First of all, I really, really appreciate having this platform to come in and speak and hear everybody out. So, very thankful for this opportunity. I graduated actually also from ASU 2 years ago. And one of the projects that we did 3 years ago was the Crescent. And I know Yusra mentioned it, and I loved what Stu mentioned as well. And we're very, very supportive in that. I just wanted to highlight a couple of the impacts and a couple of the things that we've been doing. I know 3 years ago when we tried installing the Crescent, the Islamic display on a mountain, we came up with a new idea of trying to utilize the engineering resources that we have without damaging the preserve. And so what we did, and I know we had gotten a couple specifications to not drill and not to do anything on the preserve. And so we just came up with a plan to be able to install the Crescent safely and put it up safely without having to do any of that, and without even needing to use the spots that are currently used by other communities in order to not, bother them or not be able to have a conflict of space. And with all of that, let me just share a couple of the impacts that it has had on not only our community, but actually it is a story that's been going around nationwide, which sounds really funny, but a lot of people from different states have also found this project or even the displays on the religious displays to be something very, very impactful. Not only has it been able to bring us together as different communities, I mean, we have interacted also with the Jewish community, with the Christian communities. We've been using resources together. Kind of helping each other out when we first started this plan. That in itself is bringing communities together. Aside from just, making sure that the A Mountain is a space that's right next to students. We have a lot of international students at ASU. We have a lot of just students from different faiths, different cultures, different backgrounds, and them being able to see the menorah, them being able to see the cross, them being able to see the crescent and different displays on there allows them to feel at home. Specifically, an example that we relate to is the month of Ramadan, right? When we're fasting for a month, and a lot of people who come in without a family are able to feel like this community does value the DE&I aspect of it. And I know this is something that, and I completely understand and respect what's written on the project management plan and what's written on there. And I do think that we can find a way to go about still using the displays on the mountain without having to damage the preserve, or without having, and we're still keeping the preserve safe, just like how Yusra and Stu mentioned. And so just wanted to kind of point that out. Yes, just like the Jewish community, we also bring a couple of our youth up the mountain, and that in itself is an experience that we have annually that impacts not only them, but everybody around them, right? Having the youth come up, knowing that, okay, they are here to represent, knowing that the city is here to hear them out, knowing that they have a space and a safe space, you know, to be. And so that is impactful, like I said, within our community, even outside of our communities. This is something that it is a representation that if we even take out could be a potential good thing nationwide. And so just wanted to kind of highlight some of those impacts and really appreciate this platform again. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you so much for sharing your experience, your story, through your feedback.
Okay, it looks like maybe this raised hand is still up from the last time, but I'll just check in. Matt Bloom.
Oh, sorry, that's my apology. I left it up.
Yeah, no problem. Do we have any other questions?
I was just gonna say, while there is a pause in the questions or comments, just wanted to get back to Donna's question. It was the link to the previous draft is in the chat. If you're able to click on that link. Oh, thank you.
Excellent. Well, if there are no further questions, we will definitely please encourage you to take the survey. It is open until March the 12th. There's also a public meeting tonight at the North Tempe Multigen Center, so you're welcome to come out. We'd love to have you, and please share the information with your friends and neighbors. And other than that, we'll go ahead and conclude today's meeting, and thank you all for making the time today.